Good morning, everybody. Do you remember that last week I talked to you about Abraham and Sarah and the fact that they traveled to a new land that God promised to them? And at the end of the story, I believe I said they were very happy in their new land, but still very sad that they hadn't had a child. God did promise them a child, and really they ought not to have worried, because Sarah, even though she was far too old to have children, she did have a baby, a beautiful baby boy, and they called him Isaac. And Isaac means the one who laughs. And they were always laughing and smiling because they were just so happy. One day, Abraham heard God calling him. And God said, "Take your son, your only son Isaac. I know how much you love him. And that's why I have to ask you to do this very difficult thing. I want you to give Isaac back to me." So he was really asking that Isaac be sent to heaven. Poor Abraham, poor Sarah. They loved God, they wanted to obey God, but what a difficult position to be put in. Here they finally had a son, and they loved him dearly, and God was asking that they give Isaac back to him. One wonders about that because God is a very kind and gracious and loving God, and it does seem strange that he would ask Abraham to probably, I think he meant, kill his son. In any event, Abraham, being very loyal to God, did as he was asked and took Isaac to an altar where he might sacrifice him to God. In other words, on these altars they used to kill animals as sacrifice to God. So Abraham got Isaac up on the altar and was just ready to use a knife on his son when suddenly an angel said, "Abraham, Abraham, don't hurt the boy. You have shown how much you love and trust God. And we do not need you to do anything. The wonderful thing you did was trust God in spite of your enormous love for your son." Sure enough, God then proceeded to find an animal for them to sacrifice to God. So it ended up to be a wonderful story, though it started out as a pretty scary one. Now Frank's going to show you some slides and share some music with you, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the little tiny
Abraham and Isaac. God had promised Abraham and his wife Sarah that they would have a son, and their descendants would become a great nation, as numerous as the stars. The problem was that both were now too old to have children. Abraham had become so desperate to have an heir that he had a son, Ishmael, by Sarah's servant Hagar. God promised that Ishmael's descendants would become a large nation too. When God said Abraham would have a son by Sarah, Abraham had laughed to himself as he was so old. When Sarah overheard 3 visitors sent from God say that in a year's time she would have the son God had promised, she too laughed in disbelief. It was impossible for them to have children now. Yet the Lord was kind to Sarah and kept his promise. The next year, miraculously, Abraham and Sarah had a son. Abraham, who was now 100 years old, gave his newborn son the name Isaac. Isaac means he laughs. Abraham lovingly watched his son grow from being a baby into a young boy. God then decided to test Abraham. Take your son, who you love, Isaac, to the region of Moriah and sacrifice him on a mountain, which I will show you. Abraham knew God would not want him to kill his son. It was against God's law. But he also knew he must trust and obey God. What should he do? The next day, he cut enough wood for a burnt offering, loaded up a donkey, and then set off with 2 servants and Isaac on a journey towards Moriah. After traveling for 3 days, Abraham saw the mountain in the distance. He instructed the 2 servants to wait while he and Isaac went up the mountain to worship God. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on Isaac to carry, while he carried the fire and the knife. On the way, Isaac asked, "Father, the fire and wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham replied, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering." The 2 of them continued their climb to the top of the mountain. At the top, Abraham built an altar and then arranged the wood on it. Then he bound Isaac and laid him on the wood. He reached out his hand and took the knife. "Abraham, Abraham!" An angel of the Lord put a stop to the test. "Do not lay a hand on the boy. I know you fear God because you have put him before your only son." Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. He took the ram and offered it as a burnt offering instead of Isaac. He then named the place, "The Lord will provide." The angel then spoke again. "As you have not withheld your only son, God will bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars and as the sand on the seashore. Through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed because you obeyed me." Abraham and Isaac then returned to the waiting servants and set off south to Beersheba, where they stayed.
Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. Jesus loves me, and I pray he will keep me till that day. Keep me standing true and strong, singing heaven's joyful song. Yes, Jesus loves me.
loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.